Hey there hunters, Lord here, back with another Monster Hunter Wilds video. In today's video, I'm going to be covering a ton of the new skills introduced here in Monster Hunter Wilds, especially ones that say they give you some sort of boost, but don't tell you exactly how much or exactly how you get that boost. So we're going to do a deep dive into the numbers here and give you guys as much information about each of these skills, new and returning, as we possibly can. With that being said, a bunch of these skills are going to be closer to endgame. There are going to be some high rank skills, some endgame low rank skills. So if you're trying to avoid spoilers, this is your one warning. Once my intro plays, we'll be talking about the skills. Again, they'll be in no particular order, but there will be some slight spoilers. So if you want to avoid spoilers, definitely consider saving this video to your watch later and come back once you're far enough along to start building really good sets. With all that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight into the video. So I've spent probably close to 5 hours inside the training area working on the dummy to figure out all of these different skills and what they do for multiple different scenarios. So if you find this video helpful, a like would be super appreciated as it supports the video for free and validates the effort that I put in, the hours I put into just staring at the training dummy and doing all the various math. So like I said, I spent a lot of hours in the training area, so most of these skills that you see are going to be tested. Using just 2 weapons, I went with Charge Blade and Bow, so do note there may be some variation if you use something like Dual Blades or Greatsword, but overall this should give you a pretty definitive range of what to expect from each of these skills. So we're going to go ahead and start off with Elemental Absorption. This skill activates after you take elemental damage, and it promises to increase your elemental attack and elemental resistance. Now, the elemental resistance is boosted by the type of elemental damage you took, so if you took a Rathalos Fireball, you would get bonus fire resistance, but the elemental boost is flat no matter what element you have on your weapon. So for our Charge Blade numbers, at 1 level of element absorption, we gain 40 element. At level 2, we get 50, and at level 3, we get 60, and then in my tests on Bow, it is just 10 less across the board. So plus 30 element at level 1, 40 at level 2, and 50 at level 3. Another thing to note is that you can activate this skill by using a perfect guard, and I would guess that this is due to maybe the effects of taking some chip damage. That makes element absorption specifically useful on weapons with a shield, as you don't actually have to get hit and get sent flying, you can just guard and get it to go. The next skill we're going to talk about is Convert Element. Now this one gives you bonus dragon element effects after taking elemental damage, so even if you're using like ice or fire, your attacks after taking elemental damage will include dragon. So I pulled out some dragon weapons to test this, so that way I could see how much the element values went up by. Do note that this skill also says it will increase dragon attack, so it will probably be higher on dragon weapons. You'll gain a bunch of extra dragon compared to if you were using an ice weapon, you'll have slightly less, but this was really difficult to test, and I think we'll just have to wait till it gets data mined. But at level 1, we gained 80 dragon element on both Charge Blade and Bow. At level 2, we got 120, and at level 3, we got 180 additional dragon damage. Now this also seems to work on perfect guards. Again, I would guess that this might be due to chip damage. So again, if you're rocking a shield, this skill is going to be even more useful, especially if you're running element. Now the next skill we're going to talk about is a 3-piece armor set bonus, which is the Fortifying Pelt. So Fortify's been in a bunch of games as a decoration, but it is now a set bonus. So I went ahead and tested this with low rank Deshagama armor against Arkveld. And at 0 carts, you get no bonus. At 1 cart, I gained 9 raw attack and 20 defense compared to 0 carts. And at 2 carts, I got another 9 raw attack and another 23 defense compared to 1 cart, which is a bonus 18 attack and 43 defense compared to not carting at all. Up next, we have one of my personal favorite skills in the game, which is Burst. This is super good for raw damage as well as elemental damage. So at level 1 of Burst, after hitting the monster 5 times, for melee weapons, you will gain 8 raw attack, and for ranged, it will be 6. I gained 60 element on Charge Blade and 40 on Bow. At level 2, melee weapons get 10 raw, ranged get 7. Melee weapons like Charge Blade got 80 element and the bow got 60. At level 3, we saw a 12 raw and 100 element increase on Charge Blade and an 8 ranged attack and 80 element bonus on bow. At level 4, it was 15 raw and 120 element on Charge Blade, and for ranged on my bow, it was 9 attack and 100 element. And at level 5, we get a whopping 18 extra raw damage and 140 element on our Charge Blade or melee weapons. And we got a bonus 12 ranged damage and 120 element on bow. Now I do want to note that I think the elemental values may change a little bit depending on your weapon. Like I think dual blades is a little bit more like bow where you're gaining a little bit less element than you would for Charge Blade. But the attack values that you gain from hitting 5 times are flat across all weapons. So light bowguns and bow will gain the same amount for the range damage, and something like dual blades and Charge Blade will get the 8 to 18 raw attack, no matter what weapon you're using. The only difference might be in the element. The next skill I want to talk about is Critical Element. Now, in previous games, the chart for Critical Element and Critical Status looked like this. These were the multipliers if you hit a crit. Overall, though, here in Wilds, I don't feel like it's that great. However, if you have some free slots and you're going for Element or Status, then I think it might be worth tossing in. However, for things like bow and dual blades, max might is really necessary for critical chance that I feel like bow and dual blades really don't gain much from critical element because it's so hard to get to that 100% affinity mark with those specific weapons without something like latent power, and you're going to want your spread, normal, pierce, etc. decos instead. And for melee weapons, if you don't have any open slots, I think Razor Sharp is just a better option anyway. Keeping white sharpness is going to be a lot more important than the occasional, 30 to 80% critical hit for element. So I think Razor Sharp's kind of a better option. However, if you have room, you could definitely go for it, especially if you have, I would say, 60 to 100% crit in your melee build. Max Might makes that pretty easy when coupled with Weakness Exploit. You're averaging 60 to 80 as long as you have a full stamina bar and are attacking weak spots. Moving on to Coalescence, again, tested this out with Charge Blade and Bow. At level 1 for Charge Blade, it was 35 bonus element or 12 bonus status. At level 2, it was 70 element and 25 status. And at level 3, it was 105 element and 38 status. And for Bow, at level 1, it was a bonus 11 element. At level 2, 23 element. And at level 3, we get plus 34 to our elemental attack. I did not test status with Bow because status Bow just really isn't that good. Element matching has always been best for Bow, and that seems to continue to be the theme here in Monster Hunter Wilds, so I wouldn't worry about it. Plus, any status that you could put on your bow, you could slot in as a coating jewel into your weapon and just use the coating instead. So overall, I don't think status Bow is going to be that worth it, so I didn't test Coalescence with status Bow. Now, Counterstrike is a returning skill for Monster Hunter Rise, which temporarily increases your attack power after being knocked back. It does tell you by exactly how much, but I wanted to get a look at what knocked back actually meant. So there are 3 levels of getting hit on the training dummy. It does not work on the knocked back level, but it does work on the sent flying level of the training dummy. And it also does not work on perfect guard. So there's really, I don't think, much use in this skill. You can get a lot of better skills like Burst or Agitator or Latent Power instead, because I just think that they're a much more consistent way to get damage anyway. For your normal spread, pierce, and rapid fire decorations that you can use for bow or the bow guns, each of these are a flat 5% increase to damage. Definitely worth tossing into your sets when you have the space. Bow especially, or if you're running Pierce Bowgun or something, these are going to be your #1 skills. As far as your bows go, your R2 or right trigger shots are going to be improved by the Force Shot decoration, which is normal up, and your circle or B shots are going to be improved by spread up, and your Dragon Piercer will be improved by pierce up. Sticking within the bowgun skill set, I tested out Tetrad Shot, where your 4th and 6th shot get a little bit of bonus affinity and attack. I tested this on a spread light bowgun, and the normal shots were doing 13.4 damage, and the 4th shot was doing 14 per tick, so it seems like it's around a 5% increase. There's really no point in going for this skill at level 1 or level 2, so I only tested it at level 3. The affinity doesn't seem like it's that big of a game changer, so I wouldn't be counting on Tetrad Shot to help you reach that 100% crit. Didn't really notice too many crits outside of the weapon that I was using, which was the Rathian bowgun, which has 15% crit anyway, so occasionally I'd get 1 or 2 hits that were a crit, but I never really saw more than that. For opening shot, which boosts your damage when your clip is full, I saw a difference of 13.4 up to 14.4, which is around 7.5%. Again, you're going to want to run this skill at level 3. The Rathian light bowgun, which is super good for Pierce 3, comes with Tetrad Shot at level 3, so throwing an opening shot at level 3 and a Pierce up jewel is going to give you an overall decent damage boost with the 5% from Tetrad Shot, the 7.5-ish from opening shot, and the 5% from the Pierce up jewel. Now, Artillery is another returning skill. I tested this on Charge Blade files, on Gunlance normal shelling, and on sticky bowgun ammo. So at level 0, we of course get no bonus, but at level 1 for Charge Blade, it was about a 9% increase, Gunlance was a 12% increase, and sticky was about 8.6% increase. At level 2, Charge Blade was about an 18.8% increase, Gunlance was a 17.4% increase, and sticky was a 17.2% increase. And at level 3, Charge Blade gained about 28% damage on its files. Gunlance on a single shell was gaining about 26% damage, and sticky bowgun was gaining about 26.2% damage. So overall, you're looking at between about an 8.5 and a 28% damage increase. Again, if you're running impact file, if you're running Gunlance, or if you're running sticky ammo, you're just going to want to throw this in at level 3. It's 26 to 28% extra damage per file, shell, or sticky shot, so you're just going to want to have this in at all times. Now, since we were talking about crit earlier and I spoke on latent power, let's go ahead and talk about the Rey Dau bonus, which is the Thunderous Roar. At 2 pieces, you get Thunderous Roar 1, and at 4 pieces of Rey Dau armor, you get Thunderous Roar 2. These increase the duration of latent power. Latent power activates after you take so much damage. In previous games, it was about 180 damage or 5 minutes in a quest, and this seems to be about the same. Again, I spent a lot of time testing these, trying to time it out, but I didn't want to spend 5 minutes waiting for it to activate on every hunt, as that would eat up a lot of my time, so I typically just took a bunch of damage to get it to activate and then timed how long it lasted. With any level of latent power and no set bonus from the Rey Dau armor, latent power lasts for exactly 2 minutes. With 2 pieces of Rey Dau armor and Thunderous Roar 1, it lasts for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, so we're getting a 30-second or 25% increase. And with 4 pieces of the Rey Dau armor, it actually lasts for 3.5 minutes or an extra 75% uptime. This is definitely a really solid option for bow or dual blades because of the stamina management you get and because of the crit you get without having to have full stamina like you would with max might. Now, it won't be active all the time, but it's just a pretty solid option if you're looking for some other ways to reduce your stamina or increase your affinity with stamina-intensive weapons. Now we're going to jump into the Gore Magala set bonus. At 2 pieces of Gore Magala armor, anytime you are within range or in combat with a large monster, you won't gain anything, but you will be inflicted with the Frenzy, which allows you to recover from the Frenzy. So this allows you to activate the skill Antivirus against every monster, not just against Gore Magala. But overall, I don't think this is that good anyway. But at 4 pieces, it promises us some extra attack stats while inflicted with the Frenzy, and even more after recovering from the Frenzy, which really does combine with the 15% affinity bonus from the antivirus skill, so this is definitely a pretty viable option. I wouldn't call it meta like Bloodlust was back in Sunbreak. However, during the Frenzy, you will have a bonus 10 raw attack, and after you recover, you will get 5 more, so a total of 15 bonus raw, and couple this with the antivirus skill. Once you recover, you'll have 15 extra raw and 15 extra crit. Again, that's decent, but it's definitely not going to be as meta as it was in Sunbreak. Up next, we're going to talk about Hasten Recovery. So this skill gives you health back as you continually attack the monster. Recovery varies by weapon, so harder hitting weapons, you'll get a little more. Faster hitting weapons, you'll get a little less. So Greatsword, more health back. Dual Blades, less health back. But Dual Blades will hit more often, so you'll probably get the health back a little more frequently. So in my testing, again, I tested this with Longsword, actually, and Charge Blade. Charge Blade in Sword mode was about 7 hits, and in Axe mode was 5 hits to get it back. And with Longsword, it was between 8 and 9 hits to get the health back. However, the health back was not very much. I think on Longsword and Charge Blade, it was about 9 health back, and you have 150 health after eating any meal. So it's not a lot, and Hasten Recovery 2 is really even less. Still the same amount of hits, but you just get less health back, and less than 9 health is, pretty dead. However, a lot of my personal endgame sets use 2 pieces of this armor, so I get Hasten Recovery 2, and the occasional health back during knockdowns where I'm constantly attacking the monster. Isn't too bad, but really it's more of a background skill and not something I would recommend building your entire set around. With that said, the other Arkveld set, the Guardian Arkveld set, has Decimator as a set bonus, and this is actually pretty usable. At Decimator 4, it's about 30% of your health bar comes back whenever you destroy a wound, and if you add Recovery up level 3, it actually is pretty close to 50% of your health bar that you recover whenever a wound is destroyed by your Focus Strike or just your normal attacks. I actually have some pretty sick sets built around this 4-piece bonus. So if you want to check out some of the best lifesteal that Monster Hunter Wilds has to offer, definitely subscribe so that way you don't miss it when I upload those sets. So for the Jin Dahaad set bonus, I only tested this with the 2-piece because it only gave me plus 5 raw attack for around 5 seconds after completing an offset. Really, this is only going to affect your offset follow-up, so I feel like going into a full 4 pieces of Jin Dahaad armor just really isn't worth it. As far as the new Udra Bad Blood set bonus, anytime Resentment is active, you get a bonus hit of damage every 3 to 5 seconds. And it is fixed damage, but it does depend on the spot you hit, so with the 4-piece set bonus, on a weak spot while Resentment is active, this small burst of damage will give you plus 48 damage to a weak spot, and plus 12 damage on a non-weak spot. The damage doesn't change if you drop from, say, Resentment 5 to Resentment 4 or even Resentment 1. And with the 2-piece bonus, we gain plus 20 on that extra tick when we hit a weak spot while Resentment is active, and only plus 5 damage on a hard spot while Resentment is active. Overall, this set bonus just does not seem worth it. And then finally, I did get around to testing Flayer, where it says it will give a non-elemental attack boost. I tested this with Greatsword, Dual Blades, and Charge Blade, and the way it procs seems super inconsistent. I was talking with Josh over at Rage Gaming, and we could not seem to figure out what forces this Flayer skill to proc. But at level 5, when it does proc, it will do a burst of damage similar to a blast hit for 280 additional damage. At level 4, it's 230 additional damage. At level 3, it is 190 additional damage. At level 2, it is 160, and at level 1, it will deal a burst of 140 damage. Again, there seemed to be no rhyme or reason to why or how this extra burst of damage would pop up. It was just kind of random. On Charge Blade, it took me 437 hits to get it to pop up once, and then on Greatsword, it would take 32, or it would take 48. One time I had it take 66 hits on Greatsword. It just seems to be kind of random. I'm sure once this game gets data mined, we'll figure out what causes it to proc. Right now, our best guess is that it's sort of built up like a status, so you have to deal so much damage to hit the threshold, and then the Flayer skill will activate for this non-elemental attack burst of damage. However, just flat across it, at each level, it makes wounds slightly easier to get. Again, I don't have numerical values for this, but at Flayer level 5, you pretty much have infinite wounds on the monster. It's a super great skill. I have some sets rocking that coming out soon, so do be sure to stay tuned to the channel for those. Alright, so this video has gone on for long enough. If you have any questions about other skills, I may have tested them at this point, so feel free to drop them down in the comments, and I'll do my best to respond to everyone as quickly as I can. Once again, if you found this video helpful, please do leave a like down below to help share this with other hunters completely for free. If you're new to my channel, new to Monster Hunter, or if you liked what you saw today and you want more content just like this, definitely consider subscribing to my channel. This channel is going to be one of the best places to find guides like today's video where we talk about in-depth things where I test them so you don't have to. I'll also cover all sorts of sets, tutorials, and even more information about Monster Hunter that you didn't know you needed to know. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then again, subscribing is the best way to not miss out on an upload. With all that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I wish you all a good day and happy hunting.